Chapter 1. The Unintended Complement and the Binding of Fate. The sprawling trade hub of Elisera Station was a chaotic symphony of alien voices, blinking consoles, and the constant hum of starships docking and departing, a place that could swallow the unwary whole in an instant. Yarrick, a wiry human technician with a mop of unruly brown hair and grease-stained clothes, wove through the crowd with practiced agility, his mind focused on the simple task ahead. The diagnostic chip he carried was nothing special, just a tiny piece of advanced circuitry designed to fix a glitch in the station's medical bay bioscanners, but the price of failure was high enough to make him uneasy. Though Elisera was a neutral ground, peace was often fragile, and encounters between vastly different species frequently sparked conflicts that flared like wildfire. Yarrick was well aware of this delicate balance, having narrowly escaped several confrontations in the past, each incident sharpening his instincts and wariness. Yet, despite his careful navigation of the station's endless corridors and teeming marketplaces, he had never expected to cross paths with someone like Lady Kalara Giantess, whose mere presence altered the atmosphere, a towering figure of grace, strength, and formidable authority that loomed above most beings by a good 10 feet. The Alari, her people, were legendary not just for their immense size, but for their deeply rooted customs and traditions, many of which confounded smaller species and made diplomatic relations a complex dance of respect and caution. Kalara herself carried the weight of her heritage effortlessly, her broad shoulders draped in robes of shimmering bronze fabric embroidered with intricate designs that hinted at her noble status. Her eyes, amber and glowing softly like embers of a dying fire, scanned the bustling scene with a calm curiosity tempered by an aura of command. Wherever she moved, whispers and respectful bows followed, a testament to her influence across the station. Yarrick's first encounter with her was entirely accidental and utterly mundane, or so he thought at the time. As he turned a corner near the medical bay, fumbling to adjust the wires protruding from his tool belt, he nearly collided with Kalara, who had emerged from a nearby elevator with the slow, deliberate grace of one accustomed to commanding attention. Their eyes met for a brief moment, his wide with startled surprise, hers with a mixture of amusement and something unreadable. In a nervous effort to defuse the awkwardness, Yarrick blurted out a compliment that would come to change everything. "Lady Kalara, your stature, it's truly impressive. You carry your presence like a mountain holds the sky." The words hung in the air, simple and polite, but within the context of Alari culture, they carried a weight far greater than Yarrick understood. To the Alari, commenting on one's physical stature was not mere observation, it was a recognition of power, responsibility, and social duty. By acknowledging her as a mountain holding the sky, Yarrick had unwittingly invoked a metaphor that suggested she was a pillar upon which the very fabric of society depended. Among the Alari, such a compliment was not casual flattery but a sacred acknowledgement of duty, binding the speaker and the subject in an unbreakable social contract known as the right of reciprocity. Kalara's amber eyes narrowed, a slow smile curling at the edge of her lips, both gracious and commanding. "You honor me, little one," she said, her voice a deep, resonant melody that seemed to vibrate the very air. "But with such honor comes obligation. In our tradition, those who bestow such words become bound to fulfill the duties that accompany them. You have spoken well, now you must act accordingly." Yarrick's heart pounded in his chest, realization dawning with creeping dread. What had seemed a harmless compliment was now a binding vow, a social contract woven into the very essence of Alari custom, and it was not to be taken lightly or broken without consequence. The crowd nearby had quieted, eyes turning toward the human and the giantess with a mixture of curiosity and solemnity. Whispers of the binding and the duty rippled through the station like a wave, as bystanders recognized the significance of the moment. Kalara extended her massive hand, a graceful but unavoidable summons. "Come with me, Yarrick. You will learn what your words have set into motion. You are now my partner in duty." Yarrick swallowed hard, his mind racing through every possible scenario, every desperate plan of escape, but the gravity of the situation pressed upon him like the immense weight of a collapsing star. His protests faltered under the weight of Kalara's gaze, calm, unyielding, and somehow filled with an ancient kindness that hinted he was not merely being punished, but drawn into something far greater. The binding was real, it was ancient, and it was inescapable. As they moved through the gleaming halls of Elisera Station, Yarrick felt the stares of thousands, curious, wary, respectful, and he knew that his life had shifted irrevocably. This was no longer the story of a technician delivering a chip. It was the beginning of a journey into the heart of alien tradition, responsibility, and unexpected intimacy. Kalara's steps resonated through the vast chambers, each echo a reminder of her stature and the looming path that awaited them both. They arrived at the Hall of Ancestors, a vast chamber adorned with towering statues of Alari forebears, each carved with intricate detail and radiating an aura of solemn reverence. Here, Yarrick was introduced to the elders' wise and towering figures who spoke of honor, balance, and the sacred duty he had been called to share. The rituals were complex and binding, meant to intertwine their fates in service to the station's peace and prosperity. Yarrick learned that the rite of reciprocity was more than custom, it was a living law of the Alari, demanding that those bound together act as one, uphold each other's honor, and perform tasks of great importance, from diplomacy to defense, from healing to leadership. The initial shock of this binding gave way to a slow, careful acceptance. Yarrick began to see beyond the daunting physical presence of Kalara to the intelligence, humor, and fierce loyalty beneath her towering exterior. She was not merely a giantess to be feared or admired from afar. She was a partner with hopes, fears, and dreams as complex as his own. And while the duties she demanded were formidable, so too was the strength they drew from each other. As the days turned to weeks, Yarrick found himself drawn deeper into Alari culture, learning the language, customs, and unspoken codes that governed their society. He trained in the arts of diplomacy and defense. His small frame paired unexpectedly well with Kalara's commanding presence in their public appearances and negotiations. Together, they became a symbol, a living bridge between species and worlds, demonstrating that even the most unlikely partnerships could thrive when built on respect and trust. But beneath the surface of this blossoming alliance lay challenges yet unseen. Old rivalries stirred in the shadows of the station, factions wary of the humans' place at Kalara's side and eager to exploit any weakness. Dark secrets from Kalara's past and Jarrek's own hidden fears threatened to unravel the fragile bond they were forging. The duty was not simply a social contract, it was a crucible, testing their limits and demanding sacrifices neither was fully prepared to make. And so, as the twin moons rose over Elisera Station, casting their pale light through the towering windows of the Hall of Ancestors, Yarrick stood beside Kalara, no longer a frightened technician, but a willing partner in a destiny far larger than either had imagined. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and discovery, but bound by the rite of reciprocity. They faced it together, giantess and human, duty and heart entwined in a dance as old as the stars themselves. Chapter 2. The Weight of Duty and the First Steps into the Unknown. The dawn light filtered through the towering windows of the Hall of Ancestors, casting long shafts of golden illumination over the intricate mosaics that told the stories of the Alari, their triumphs, their losses, and their eternal bond to the cosmos. To Yarrick, this place felt at once majestic and suffocating, a cavernous cathedral to a culture far older and more complex than anything he had ever known. Every stone seemed etched with expectation, every shadow whispered responsibility, and the air itself thrummed with the weight of centuries of tradition. The rite of reciprocity, once an abstract concept that had trapped him with a single careless phrase, now wrapped around his existence like a second skin impossible to shed, demanding every ounce of his attention, courage, and heart. Lady Kalara's presence was a constant reassurance amid this overwhelming new world. She moved beside him with that same grace that had both intimidated and fascinated him when they first met, but now there was an added layer of warmth and patience. She had taken it upon herself to guide him through the labyrinthine customs, to explain the rituals, the etiquette, and the unspoken rules that govern the lives of the Alari and those bound to them. Her amber eyes softened as she spoke, her voice resonant with pride and a quiet vulnerability rarely glimpsed by outsiders. This duty, she explained, is not just an obligation. It is a bond, a living thread that connects us, strengthens us, and holds us accountable. You are no longer just a human on a distant station. You are a partner, a keeper of balance, and a guardian of our shared future. Yarrick listened intently, his mind racing to absorb every detail, every nuance. The more he learned, the clearer it became that the rite was less about servitude and more about symbiosis. In Alari society, strength was measured not merely by physical might, but by the ability to uphold honor, to protect the weak, and to act as a pillar upon which others could rely. His compliment, the metaphor of the mountain holding the sky, had unwittingly drawn him into this sacred framework. He was expected to rise to the challenge, to prove himself worthy of the trust that Kalara and her people had placed upon him. The practical implications were immediate and daunting. From the moment the binding was declared, Yarrick's days transformed into a relentless regimen of study and training. He learned the Alari language in its intricate tones and rhythms, studied their history with its cycles of peace and conflict, and immersed himself in the arts of negotiation, strategy, and combat. The Alari were formidable warriors as well as diplomats, their towering forms capable of devastating physical power but tempered by an ancient wisdom that prized balance above conquest. Kalara was both mentor and partner, pushing him beyond his limits while shielding him from the harshest trials until he was ready. Their training was not merely physical. The rite demanded emotional and spiritual alignment. They underwent ceremonies that bonded their minds, allowing them to share thoughts, feelings, and even memories, a communion that transcended words and forged a deep empathy. For Yarrick, this was both frightening and exhilarating. He could feel Kalara's heart beating in tandem with his own, her hopes and fears flowing through the connection like a river of light and shadow. It was a profound intimacy that dissolved the barriers of species and size, binding them as equals in a relationship neither had anticipated but both embraced. Yet, the station around them remained a world of politics and peril. Whispers of dissent rippled through the corridors of power as factions questioned the presence of a human at Kalara's side. Old rivalries between Alari houses threatened to ignite, and the station's delicate peace teetered on the edge of chaos. Yarrick found himself thrust into the center of these intrigues, navigating a minefield of alliances and enmities where a single misstep could unravel everything. He relied heavily on Kalara's counsel, her experience, and the unyielding strength of their bond to guide him through the treacherous currents. One pivotal moment came when they were summoned to the Council of Elders, a chamber carved from living stone and illuminated by bioluminescent flora that pulsed with the rhythm of the planet itself. The elders regarded Yarrick with measured curiosity and guarded respect, their eyes reflecting the weight of millennia. The council's leader, a venerable Alari named Thaurin, spoke with gravitas. "Your binding is unprecedented," he intoned. "A human bearing the mantle of our rite, this is a sign of change and a test of our resilience. You must prove that your spirit is as steadfast as the mountain you were likened to." The challenges they faced soon materialized in the form of threats both internal and external. A faction known as the Shadow Vultures, opportunistic mercenaries and saboteurs, sought to exploit the political turmoil, aiming to destabilize Kalara's position and seize control of vital resources on the station. Yarrick, once a mere technician, now found himself at the forefront of covert operations, strategizing raids and coordinating defenses. His ingenuity and quick thinking surprised even the hardened Alari veterans, earning grudging admiration and forging new alliances. Amidst the chaos, moments of unexpected tenderness blossomed between Yarrick and Kalara. They shared quiet evenings beneath the twin moons, their conversation flowing from the mundane to the profound. He marveled at the depth of her wisdom and the fierceness of her loyalty, while she found solace in his steady presence and unyielding spirit. Their differences, the vast gap in size, culture, and experience became the foundation of a partnership that transcended the rite's formal bindings. Together, they navigated the complexities of duty and desire, honor and heart. But the greatest trial awaited beyond the station's safe confines. Intelligence reports revealed a brewing conflict with a neighboring star system, whose rulers resented Alari influence and sought to challenge their supremacy. The possibility of war loomed, threatening to engulf the fragile peace and thrust Yarrick and Kalara into the crucible of battle. The rite of reciprocity demanded that they stand united, not just in ceremony but in action, embodying the strength and resolve that had defined the Ilari for centuries. As they prepared for the looming storm, Yarrick reflected on how far he had come from a nervous technician who had stumbled into a perilous compliment to a man intertwined with the fate of a proud and ancient people. The weight of the duty was immense, yet it was balanced by a profound sense of purpose and connection. He no longer faced the unknown alone. Beside him stood Kalara, a giantess in stature and spirit, whose trust and companionship were the strongest armor against the darkness ahead. Together, they faced the horizon, where the first sparks of conflict flickered amid the stars. The path was uncertain and fraught with danger, but it was theirs to walk bound by words, honor, and an unbreakable bond that neither size nor species could diminish. Chapter 3: Trials of Trust and the Fires of Alliance. The days stretched into weeks, each dawn rising over Elisera Station bringing new challenges, new uncertainties, and the relentless pressure of expectations weighing heavily on Jarrek's shoulders. The Hall of Ancestors, once an intimidating sanctuary filled with the solemn gaze of statues and the whispered legacies of the Ilari forebears, had become a place of daily rigor, where knowledge was imparted not through mere instruction, but through trials that tested body, mind, and spirit. Yarrick found himself caught in a whirlwind of tradition and transformation, a human thrust into a world where every action bore significance beyond personal consequence, and every misstep threatened not just his own fate, but the fragile balance of an ancient culture. Lady Kalara remained his steadfast guide and partner, a towering presence whose fierce nobility both protected and challenged him. Her lessons were exacting, pushing Yarrick beyond the limits he had once believed immutable. Physical training was rigorous. Despite his smaller stature, he learned to move with agility and precision, to anticipate and react in ways that compensated for his lack of size. The Ilari taught him the art of combat, fluid, powerful, and deeply connected to the rhythm of the body and breath, so that even a human could stand alongside their towering kin with honor. Kalara's own form was a blend of grace and raw strength, a living testament to her race's balance of might and wisdom. Watching her fight was to witness the dance of storms and sunlight, fierce yet controlled, beautiful yet deadly. But more profound than the physical challenges were the tests of trust and empathy, for the rite of reciprocity demanded more than skill. It required a merging of souls, a communion of intent and understanding. The psychic bond between Yarrick and Kalara deepened through shared meditation and ritual, enabling moments of silent communication that transcended spoken language. Through this connection, Yarrick glimpsed the vast history carried within Kalara's mind, the joys and sorrows of her people, the weight of leadership, the burdens of expectations passed down through generations. It was an overwhelming flood of emotion and memory, yet it also forged a profound compassion within him, a recognition that beneath the giantess's imposing exterior was a heart as vulnerable and fiercely loyal as his own. The station around them was a living entity, a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and ambitions. Political intrigue simmered beneath the surface, with factions eager to exploit any sign of weakness or discord. Whispers of dissent grew louder as some questioned the wisdom of a human bearing the mantle of Ilari duty. Rumors spread of sabotage, betrayals, and plots to destabilize Kalara's position. Yarrick found himself navigating not only the rigors of his new responsibilities, but the treacherous waters of diplomacy and subterfuge. Every meeting, every word spoken in council chambers carried double meanings, and allies could quickly become adversaries in a game where trust was scarce and the stakes immeasurable. Amid this turbulent landscape, a new threat emerged that tested the unity of the station itself. A coalition of fringe mercenaries and disaffected factions known as the Iron Talons. They were ruthless opportunists, skilled in guerrilla tactics and sabotage, who saw the political upheaval as an opportunity to seize control of vital trade routes and resource caches. Their attacks were sudden and brutal. Explosions rocked supply hubs, communication lines were severed, and shadows of suspicion fell across the station's corridors. The iron talons threatened to unravel the delicate peace Kalara had worked tirelessly to maintain, and the burden of countering them fell heavily on Yarrick and his burgeoning team. Jarrek's transition from technician to leader was rapid and fraught with challenges. He coordinated patrols and intelligence efforts, leveraged his technical expertise to uncover hidden caches of weapons, and worked closely with Kalara's trusted warriors to devise strategies that balanced aggression with restraint. His human ingenuity born of necessity and improvisation proved invaluable in countering the unpredictable tactics of the Iron Talons. Yet the pressures were immense. Each failure weighed on him, each casualty a sharp pang that fueled his determination but also chipped away at his confidence. Throughout it all, Kalara remained a pillar of strength and wisdom, her presence a constant source of inspiration and grounding. She stood beside Yarrick in council meetings, her towering form a symbol of unity and resolve. Together, they represented the melding of two worlds, the formidable tradition of the Alari and the resourceful spirit of humanity. Their partnership, born from an accidental complement, had blossomed into a profound alliance that inspired hope amid chaos. Yet the bond was tested most acutely in the quiet moments between battles. The psychic link that connected them was a double-edged sword, laying bare fears, doubts, and insecurities that neither could fully hide. Yarrick struggled with the enormity of the expectations placed upon him, haunted by the memory of his previous life, a technician unaware of the cosmic forces now entwined with his fate. Kalara, for all her strength, carried the scars of leadership, the loneliness of command, the weight of decisions that cost lives, and the burden of safeguarding a people who looked to her as both ruler and guardian. One evening, beneath the twin moons that cast pale light over the station's spires, they shared a moment of vulnerability. Seated in the garden terraces high above the bustling corridors, surrounded by alien flora that glowed softly in the dark, Yarrick reached out to Kalara, his fingers brushing against the shimmering scales along her wrist, a gesture of comfort and connection. "I never imagined my words would lead me here," he confessed, his voice low and raw. "Sometimes, I fear I'm not worthy of this. Of you." Kalara's amber eyes softened, reflecting the starlight and something deeper affection, understanding, and fierce protectiveness. "None of us are perfect, Yarrick. The right binds us, yes, but it also teaches us. It is not your strength alone that matters, but your heart, your will to stand when others fall. Together, we are stronger than the sum of our parts." Their bond sealed in that shared vulnerability, they returned renewed to the challenges ahead. The Iron Talon's assaults intensified, pushing the station to the brink of chaos. Skirmishes erupted across the outer docks, sabotage threatened critical infrastructure, and the threat of open war loomed. Yarrick and Kalara rallied their forces, forging alliances with reluctant factions and marshaling the station's defenders into a coordinated force. The climax came unexpectedly. Intelligence revealed the location of the Iron Talon's hidden base, an abandoned asteroid mining colony converted into a fortress. A decisive strike was planned, one that would determine the station's fate. Yarrick led the assault team, blending his technical expertise with newly honed combat skills. The battle was brutal and unforgiving. Dark corridors echoed with gunfire and the clash of blades. Explosions rocked the hollowed tunnels, and every step forward was paid for in sweat and sacrifice. Amid the chaos, Yarrick and Kalara fought side by side. Their coordination was seamless, their connection palpable, a dance of power and precision. Kalara's massive form tore through enemy ranks with devastating force, while Jarrek's quick reflexes and sharp mind outmaneuvered traps and coordinated strikes. The bond they had forged was their greatest weapon, a living testament to the right of reciprocity's true power. When the dust settled, the Iron Talons were broken, their threat extinguished, and the station breathed a collective sigh of relief. But the victory was bittersweet, marked by loss and the harsh reminder that peace was always temporary. Yarrick looked at Kalara, the towering giantess who had become his anchor in a turbulent galaxy, and knew that their journey was far from over. Together, they had faced trials that would have shattered lesser bonds and emerged stronger. The right of reciprocity was not just a social contract, it was a journey of growth, understanding, and shared destiny. Yarrick had been drawn into a world he never sought, but one he now embraced with open heart and fierce determination. Kalara's compliment had set in motion a chain of events that transformed a chance encounter into an unbreakable alliance, a testament to the power of words, honor, and the unexpected paths that bind us all. As the twin moons cast their light over the station once more, Yarrick and Kalara stood side by side, Giantess and human, duty and love intertwined, ready to face whatever the stars held next, bound together by a fate forged in the fires of trust and trial. Chapter 4. The Right Fulfilled and the Bonds That Transcend. The stars outside Elisera Station twinkled like distant promises, serene and indifferent to the turmoil brewing within the colossal spaceborne city. Yet inside, the air crackled with a tension that had nothing to do with the usual hustle of trade and diplomacy. The political undercurrents that had simmered for months finally surged to the surface, threatening not just the fragile peace but the very lives of those bound by the right of reciprocity. Yarrick, once a simple technician stumbling into a moment of unintended consequence, now stood at the heart of a storm far larger than himself. His bond with Lady Kalara, the towering giantess whose stature and spirit had reshaped his destiny, was no longer a curiosity but a symbol of hope and challenge, living embodiment of two worlds intertwined. Their partnership had evolved through trials of combat, politics, and trust. They had faced the brutal insurgency of the Iron Talons, navigated the treacherous currents of station politics, and endured the weight of ancient customs that demanded unwavering honor and sacrifice. Yet, nothing in their shared journey had prepared them for the ultimate test that awaited, a formal rite that would either cement their bond forever or shatter it under the crushing demands of tradition and power. The Hall of Ancestors, with its towering statues and glowing runes, was once again the setting for this momentous occasion. The Ilari elders gathered, their faces carved with the lines of centuries, their eyes reflecting a solemn understanding of the gravity before them. The rite of binding was ancient, a ceremony that had united mates, leaders, and warriors across generations, each iteration reaffirming the sacred trust that held the Ilari people together. For Yarrick and Kalara, this rite was not only a confirmation of duty but a declaration of unity and acknowledgement that despite their differences, they were now one force, bound by honor, love, and the shared destiny of a people. Yarrick stood beside Kalara, feeling the immense contrast between his modest human form and her towering presence, yet sensing a profound equality forged through their trials. The psychic bond that had grown over months pulsed warmly between them, a conduit of shared thoughts, emotions, and unspoken promises. The elders began the ceremony with solemn chants, voices weaving ancient hymns that resonated through the stone and air, filling the chamber with a palpable energy that stirred the soul. As the ritual unfolded, Yarrick was immersed in visions, glimpses of Ilari history, their struggles and triumphs, the countless bonds forged in fire and shadow that had shaped their civilization. He saw the mountains of their homeworld, vast and eternal, standing as silent witnesses to the lives of those who called them sacred. He felt the pulse of Kalara's heart alongside his own, steady and strong, a rhythm that echoed the mountain metaphor he had once uttered so casually. The rite demanded not just acceptance but transformation, a shedding of old fears and an embracing of new purpose. Kalara's hand reached for his, their fingers intertwining in a gesture of trust and solidarity. Her amber eyes met his, filled with a fierce tenderness that transcended words. Together, we stand not only as partners, but as guardians of our people's future. The mountain holds the sky, and the sky holds the stars. So shall we hold each other. The chamber's energy surged, and a radiant light enveloped them both, a shimmering aura that spoke of ancient power and modern hope entwined. The rite was complete. Their bond was no longer a mere obligation, but a living covenant. Whispers of awe and approval rippled through the assembled elders and onlookers, their acceptance of validation of the human who had become an unlikely pillar of Ilari society. But the ceremony was only the beginning. The political landscape of Elisera Station remained volatile. The fall of the Iron Talons had destabilized power balances, and new factions vied for influence. Yarrick and Kalara, now united in the eyes of their people, faced the daunting task of forging alliances and steering their home through the coming storm. Their combined strength and diplomacy became crucial as threats both external and internal tested the station's fragile unity. Amidst these challenges, the personal bond between the human and the giantess deepened into a profound partnership of equals. In quiet moments away from the prying eyes of politics and tradition, they shared dreams and fears, hopes and memories. Jarek's world, once small and defined by wires and circuits, had expanded beyond imagination. Kalara, for all her strength and stature, found in him a companion who saw beyond her towering exterior to the heart beneath it, a heart shaped by duty but softened by trust. Their relationship became a beacon of possibility, proof that even the most unlikely unions could flourish through respect, courage, and love. The right of reciprocity had bound them by tradition, but it was their shared journey, their willingness to face the unknown together, that truly made them partners. As Elisera Station thrived under their guidance, welcoming diverse species and forging new paths of cooperation, Yarrick and Kalara stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars that had once seemed so distant. The galaxy was vast and filled with uncertainty, but in each other's presence, they found certainty, a foundation as unyielding as the mountains of Alari legend. Yarrick squeezed Kalara's hand gently. Whatever comes next, we face it as one. Kalara smiled, her luminous eyes reflecting the infinite cosmos. Together, we are unstoppable. And so, beneath the endless expanse of stars, the giantess and the human embraced their destiny bound by duty, strengthened by love, and ready to write their own chapter among the legends of the galaxy. Even as the rite of reciprocity concluded with its radiant ceremony and solemn affirmations, the true test of Yarrick and Kalara's bond was just beginning. The harmonious light that enveloped them faded into the shadows cast by political intrigue and cosmic unrest. The galaxy beyond Elisera Station was no calm sea, but a tempest of shifting alliances, ancient grudges, and raw ambition. The victory over the Iron Talons had barely settled before new threats emerged, darker and more insidious, challenging everything the pair had fought to build. Elisera Station was a crossroads for countless races, a nexus where diplomacy was as vital as firepower. The station's council, a complex assembly of species each guarding their interests fiercely, viewed the unprecedented union of a human and a Lari giantess with a mixture of awe, suspicion, and envy. Some saw it as a hopeful sign of unity, others whispered fears of imbalance and betrayal. Yarrick, once a man content with the hum of machines and the logic of circuits, was now forced into the labyrinth of political maneuvering, his every word and action scrutinized through lenses of suspicion and expectation. Yet it was Kalara's unwavering presence that steadied him. Her stature was no mere physical trait, but a symbol of resilience and authority that commanded respect. She navigated the tangled webs of council politics with grace and strategic acuity, her voice carrying the weight of generations. Together, they became an inseparable force, a fusion of intellect, power, and compassion that challenged old prejudices and inspired new alliances. But the external pressures were matched by internal struggles. The right's psychic bond, a gift that had united them so deeply, also laid bare their vulnerabilities. Shared thoughts brought unspoken fears to light. Moments of doubt and insecurity threatened to fracture their connection. Yarrick grappled with the enormity of his new role, how a simple compliment had led him into a destiny filled with sacrifice and relentless expectation. Kalara, for her part, bore the burden of leadership, haunted by the ghosts of past decisions and the knowledge that the future's weight rested heavily on their shoulders. Amidst this turmoil, the two found solace in quiet moments stolen from the relentless pace of duty. High above the station's bustling core, in gardens suspended like emerald oases in artificial skies, they shared whispered conversations and gentle touches. A sanctuary where the vast gulf between their worlds narrowed to mere inches. Here, the barriers of race, size, and tradition faded, leaving only two souls entwined by choice and fate. Their bond became a beacon to others, proof that difference could breed strength, and that duty and desire could coexist in harmony. The station's inhabitants, once divided by suspicion, began to rally around the symbol of hope they represented. Stories of the human who had risen to stand beside a giantess in the right spread across systems, inspiring songs, art, and newfound respect among species long wary of one another. Yet, the galaxy was not content to rest. Beyond Elisara's borders, whispers spoke of shadows stirring in forgotten sectors, rogue factions amassing fleets, ancient technologies awakening from millennia of slumber, and cosmic forces that neither Yarrick nor Kalara could yet comprehend. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but they faced it united, their combined strength a shield against the encroaching darkness. In the end, it was not the right alone that defined their journey, but the choices they made every day, the courage to stand together in the face of uncertainty, the willingness to embrace vulnerability as a source of strength, and the enduring belief that even in the vastness of space, connection could light the darkest void. As Elisara Station thrived under their watchful eyes and steady hands, Yarrick and Kalara looked to the stars, their hearts beating in unison. Whatever the future held, they knew they would face it side by side, giantess and human, bound by duty, love, and the unbreakable promise forged by a single, unintended complement. The delicate balance of power on Elisara Station was never meant to endure in tranquility. It was a crucible forged from competing ambitions, ancient grudges, and the raw desire for survival. Yarrick, now fully woven into the fabric of Alari tradition and the complex politics of the station, felt the immense weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. Yet, alongside Kalara the colossal, radiant giantess who had become more than a mentor or partner, but the very axis upon which his new world spun, he found the strength to face every challenge that rose before them. Their bond, born of ritual but tempered through shared trials, had evolved beyond duty into something profound and unbreakable. Political machinations and whispers of rebellion surged through the council chambers like a tidal wave, testing the resolve of all who sought to maintain order. Rivals conspired in shadowed alcoves, spreading rumors and fomenting dissent among the station's diverse inhabitants. The precarious alliances that Kalara had painstakingly nurtured began to fray as pressure mounted, threatening to unravel the unity necessary to confront the growing threats beyond the station's perimeter. The dark void of space was not idle. Distant fleets, long silent, now stirred with menace, driven by ambitions as ancient and inscrutable as the stars themselves. Yarrick, thrust from the safety of his former life into the relentless tide of leadership, found solace and strength in Kalara's unwavering presence. Her towering form was a living emblem of resilience, her voice a clarion call that rallied allies and quelled fears. Yet beneath her formidable exterior was a heart that bore the scars of sacrifice and solitude, a burden she carried with grace but never without pain. Together, they moved through the halls of power like twin pillars, their unity a beacon to those who dared to dream of peace amid chaos. But the rite of reciprocity was not merely political theater, it was a profound communion of souls that demanded honesty and vulnerability. The psychic link forged between them allowed for an intimacy that transcended speech, revealing fears and hopes alike. Yarrick wrestled with the enormity of his transformation, the gulf between the human he had been and the figure he was becoming. Kalara's strength emboldened him, yet her own doubts, whispered in the quiet hours, reminded him that even giants falter beneath the weight of expectation. Their journey was punctuated by moments of quiet connection amid the storm. In the suspended gardens above the station's core, bathed in soft bioluminescent light, they found refuge from the relentless demands of their roles. Here, size and culture melted away, leaving only two souls bound by trust and love. Their conversations ranged from the mundane to the profound dreams for the future, reflections on the past, and shared promises whispered beneath the twin moon's glow. These moments, though brief, wove the tapestry of their partnership with threads of hope and resilience. Yet, the galaxy beyond was restless. Intelligence reports painted a grim picture. Warlords amassing forces, ancient weapons reactivated in forgotten star systems, and cosmic phenomena threatening the delicate balance of space-time itself. The pair understood that their station, though a bastion of peace, was a single point in an ever-expanding spiral of conflict. They prepared to meet these challenges not as isolated figures, but as a unified front, their combined resolve a shield against the darkness looming on the horizon. The climax of their struggle came not in grand battles or sweeping speeches, but in the quiet moments of decision that defined leadership. Yarrick and Kalara navigated treacherous negotiations, brokered fragile truces, and inspired their people to stand firm against despair. Their partnership became a living legend, a testament to the power of connection across differences, the strength found in vulnerability, and the courage to face the unknown hand in hand. As Elisera Station flourished under their guidance, a new era dawned, not free of challenges, but richer in understanding and unity. Yarrick, once a man defined by small tasks and simpler dreams, now stood as a pillar of a civilization that spanned worlds and cultures. Kalara, the giantess who had drawn him into this destiny with a single compliment, was no longer merely a leader, but a symbol of hope and strength. Together, beneath the vast tapestry of stars, they embraced the future, a future shaped by their courage, their bond, and the unyielding belief that even the smallest words can ripple across the cosmos and change the course of history. And as their hands clasped tightly, their hearts beating as one, the galaxy watched in quiet awe, knowing that whatever storms might come, the mountain and the sky would stand united, steadfast against the dark.